Okay, this is the Kong Gateway 0 to API Gateway little video. Before I get started with the demo, I just wanted to do a couple slides to talk about the problem statement we're going to address here. So over the last 4 or 5 years, I've seen a common design with services that there's probably something we need to avoid. And that is there's different services are implementing the same components across the infrastructure. So you might have a Spring Boot server that has authentication and logging, but then a Node.js or a .NET service that are implementing similar components to do the same thing. So you end up with a lot of similar components in your microservice design. Well, the API gateway approach introduces a distributed microservices abstraction layer. So you can have those elements, common elements, in that one place and allow these underlying services to focus on meeting business roles. That same layer at the abstraction layer at the API gateway, it allows you to do things like rate limiting, ACL scalability, and performance as well, which is typically not implemented at those lower service levels. So Kong Gateway is an open source solution. It provides quite a few benefits. For this video, we're going to be focusing on the rate limiting, but we're actually going to go from nothing all the way to rate limiting implementation. So in that demonstration, we're going to start with a Spring Boot RESTful service running in Docker, and it will have an account URI. We'll install Kong and Postgres in Docker as well. Then we'll configure the Kong gateway to work with the Postgres database. Finally, we'll introduce an account service in Kong Gateway that will serve those requests to the account URI. So basically, you'll make a request to Kong, and it will pass that on to the RESTful service running in Spring Boot. We'll establish a route as well to go with that connection, and then we're going to validate that that same request to Spring Boot is handled through Kong. At that point, we'll introduce rate limiting so we can put a limit on the number of requests that are allowed to that account service, and we'll validate what happens when we exceed that rate limit. So let's get started with the demo. Okay, we're going to get started with the demonstration part of this video. Basically at the top here I have the Docker stats window running, just a terminal session. I know what's going on in Docker. Currently we have nothing running. And this is the path where my service example Spring Boot RESTful service lives. And I can show you that we can start that service just by using Java jar, and it'll bring up the Spring example jar file. So you can see it starts quickly, 2.12 seconds. We're going to go ahead and Control C that because we're going to actually use it in Docker. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually do the Docker build to build that jar file into a Docker container. It does it really quickly. And then we'll go ahead and run that Docker container so we can actually use it. And you see it booting up there. We're going to clear my screen to make it not as messy. Now then, I can execute a curl command to get a list of accounts from that service. Real simple API call. We get back a list of accounts with ID number 1 equal to Eric and number 5 equal to Sydney. So with the RESTful service actually running in Docker, we're going to actually fire up Kong. And the first thing we got to do is bring down the Postgres database. We'll just fire that off. Okay, and it starts off really quickly. And then we're going to run this command to migrate and get the database ready for Kong. So we go, does that really quickly. The database is up to date. Now we're going to start Kong. Go over here again, fire this off, and you can see the service example started in Docker, Kong database, and now Kong is there. So we're going to clear the screen. Now the next thing we need to do is actually configure Kong so we can access that RESTful API that we talked about in Spring Boot. So we're going to call that account service, and we'll send a request, a curl to the 8001 port, which is where Kong is. We're going to say whenever we access account service in Kong, route to this 8888 accounts URI. So we'll do that, and it gets created. Now we'll create a route actually to that service. Just takes a second to do that. Now with that in place, we can actually do this curl command to say, give me the account service, and that's going to route the request through Kong, which will then talk to the Spring Boot RESTful service. So I hit enter here, you see that same list of IDs. With Eric as number 1 and Sydney as number 5. Now then, where Kong has value is the rate limiting, one of the many ways. So if we want to put a rate limiter, say 3 requests per hour, it's as simple as sending that curl command. So now then I can go here and try that same URI. If we do it the first time, it's going to be fine. And if we keep repeating, you're going to see that our rate limit is exceeded because it's not allowing us to get back past that 3 per hour barrier. So that's a demonstration. Kong, nothing to Kong in about 2 or 3 minutes. So thanks for watching.